you spoke earlier about the importance of mentors to your career. And I guess thinking back to someone that's maybe slightly earlier in their career in our sector, maybe just touch on how those mentorship relations came about, how you continue to nurture them, the value that maybe even now as a very established, esteemed leader of a big global business, and how you still potentially lean on some of those mentors to support you. It'd be really interesting to unpack that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to be honest with you, having one of the biggest assets you can have in your career is your network, because they're the people who will help you when you need it, when you're a bit lost or you're struggling a bit, but they're also the people that you support and can help as well. And I feel like this kind of, the quid pro quo nature of your network is a really important aspect to it. And I really believe in nurturing those relationships because they are an investment. Like any investment, you have to take care of them. Um, I think about sort of my mentors and things that I've had over the years, and the people that I even still today connect with, and spitball and brainstorm with, and problem solve with. Um, those are the sorts of people who I come away from those conversations energized. I come away from them with a new perspective on things. Sometimes I go into them going, oh, I've got all these dramas and problems, and how am I going to ever get to that? And a good mentor, I think, will help you kind of see through the forest and actually find your way out of the weeds a bit. And if I think about the conversations I have with my mentors at the moment, like that's exactly where I feel like if I sit down and have a chat and a coffee or go for a walk with them, um, I come out of it so much better, and I just kind of I come away with it, with direction and focus, and I feel like you kind of feel like you can solve all the problems and get on with things. But I think those relationships are critical. Like I think for anyone, if that would be the one thing I would say to people is like if you are earlier in your career, building and fostering those networks is really critical. And sometimes those mentor relationships they happen naturally. Like sometimes you don't. I guess I've never actually sat down and said to somebody, will you be my mentor? Those sorts of things have happened quite organically because it's just become someone who you trust as a guide and as a leader, but you're on the same wavelength and you can kind of work well together. I think is really important.
Fantastic. And I presume, Matt, now as you're reaching the levels you have in your career, you're beginning to provide that support to a number of people that you've worked with, perhaps on a more junior level, and it's being repaid back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hope so. I like to try and think that you can kind of pass the baton a little bit and help people who are coming in who are newer to the industry. I remember when I came in, as I said, looking back on it now, I can realize how naive and maybe a bit sort of overwhelmed I was at the time. I probably didn't realize it when I was there. But it certainly is. It can be a very confronting and overwhelming space, um, especially in client service roles when you're working with some senior stakeholders. Sometimes you encounter very big personalities, and things are difficult to navigate. So having someone who's got your back in that, I think, is really critical, and it can be really um, help people to find their way through some of those challenging times.
Fantastic. Matt, that leads us on really nicely to our quick fire questions. And I'm very conscious. Our first question is thinking back to the younger researcher, whether that's you in your early days starting off at Millward Brown, or whether that's someone starting their career today. It's looking for a piece of advice. And I appreciate that clearly network comes across loud and clear to make sure people are really investing in the people around them. And beyond that network, are there any other key bits of advice that you would look to give either yourself when you were starting off, now from what you've learned, or someone new to the sector?
Yeah, I think there's so much value in just watching and listening other people. And this is one of the challenges I think we've had in the last few years with remote working, is that for younger people, I really feel quite bad for them that they've missed out on so many of those opportunities because I think there is so much valuable learning that happens in soft skills and things just by watching and being in a room with people. So I think yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate of hybrid working, don't get me wrong, but I do think that there is a really important need to have those moments together with people. So I would say, yeah, watch, listen, like look at the cues, look how people stand, how they talk when they're presenting or engaging with clients. Like you can learn so much just from observing people. And I think there's a lot to gain from that.